So one of the things that I do here in the garage and beside the garage and in the yard is I do a little bit of welding. Nothing for production. It's all mostly my own consumption, either on the utility trailer or if I'm welding up some picture frames for stuff, that sort of thing. Um, what I have here is a really old Craftsman arc welder. Now, I mean, it'll burn half-inch steel. It's a great arc welder. And then I've got a little Miller 175 MIG welder. But I use the arc welder more than anything, just because that's what I learned on. And I don't do a lot of little stuff. Mostly it's eighth inch, it's quarter inch, that sort of stuff. So I mostly use the arc welder to do that. What I realized is years ago, I have one chipping hammer. I know that some people have 10 chipping hammers or whatever, and I got a lot of hammers, don't get me wrong. But I have one chipping hammer, and I got it years ago, and I bought it from someone else, extra used, and it had kind of a chitsy little tack, and it's been broken, for years. It just the tack weld on it just never held, and it's one of those homemade jobs. It's kind of uncomfortable, but it's what it makes do. I just it chips slag off of welds. So what I decided to do with some downtime I had is I've re-welded it and just gobbed big stuff on it, and then taken it down with a sander in order to make sure it doesn't break again. And then I'm going to put a handle on it, and I think I'm going to put something nice like oak or madrona or some sort of mahogany scrap that I have somewhere in here. So yeah, I'll go ahead and document the steps I take in order to fix the hammer and add the handle, and hopefully the chipping hammer is good to go until the end of time. Anyway. So this is a burn pile. It's from a bunch of wine crates. We may have a lot of wine crates. Long story. Anyway, this is the hatchet handle that I replaced a few months ago, and I have no use for it. Alright, so I am going to go ahead and epoxy this handle on. I'm going to put some rivets in it as well, but I just want some epoxy on first. I'm going to use some Hysol 2-part epoxy adhesive, and I've got the it's in the 3M gun with a mixed tip, and then I have this paper plate in order to for any drips. Now I'm doing this in the kitchen. I actually have permission from my wife. So I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this on the down low. It's just a little cool in the shop right now to be mixing epoxy. So here we go. I wanted to put copper rivets in the hammer handle to keep it on. Now the epoxy will keep it probably forever, but the rivets I think add just an extra nice looking piece and just peace of mind as far as holding it. Now the only ones I could find were at West Marine here in Seattle, and man, they were super pricey. So after doing a little internet search and kind of coming up with the same thing, I decided to make my own rivets, and so I stopped by my local True Value here in the neighborhood and picked up some copper roofing nails and then the associated size copper washers. And so I'm just going to make my own rivets. Now, in the end, it was just as pricey to do it this way as it was to go to West Marine, but it keeps the money local, and I really like supporting a business that has, you know, the secret bins of stuff that nobody ever uses for 20 years and that really doesn't turn as far as inventory. The big box stores, the Lowe's, the Home Depots, they don't do that, and so it's kind of hard to find the small weird stuff like copper roofing nails and copper washers. So I'm happy to support, even though it costs a little bit of extra money. Alright, so here is the new tack hammer with the recycled hickory handle, my copper rivets, and gobbed on weld. It's been oiled, and the handle's been oiled, and I'll put a little more on there, and it'll get darker and darker with use. But there we go, it feels great.